Heyo, and welcome to another episode of Advanced Glitch Building. Today I'm going to be going in depth into how I understand wire manipulation, how to properly rotate and get glitch points exactly where you want every time. If you ever have stopped by my streams over on Twitch, you'll probably hear me preach all about how all you need to do is understand the wire, and once you do, anything is possible in the building mechanics. With a complete understanding of the wire pulling, you can place any item in the build menu at any orientation or angle that you want. Even further, you can use items that you've glitched into the manipulated wire endpoints and use other glitches afterwards to get even further finely tuned results, like resized pieces exactly where you want. I will go over this a little bit more later on, probably in another video, but first let's get to know the glitch builder's best friend, the wire. Some of this stuff you might already know, but stick around, I guarantee you're going to find at least one thing in this tutorial that you did not know. First things first, and this is back to basics for probably everybody watching this, but the direction that you pull a wire, whether from a manual placement or from a reverse wire glitch, will always determine the direction that any item glitched into either end of that wire will be facing. I think of it like pulling back on a rubber band. If you were to release it, the direction it would go flying off is considered the front. This is easily shown during any tethering you may do, as you can see here. The next most important thing is to understand that any wire being pulled and attached to an already existing wire endpoint will subsequently acquire that wire's orientation, but will not necessarily acquire its angle, at least not on the horizontal plane. What I mean by this is, if level wires are being pulled to and from each other on the same plane, no matter what angle that plane is on, they will always maintain that orientation. The only thing that will change is on an individual wire endpoint basis, and this can be determined by two things. Again, the direction being pulled from, and, since there are now multiple wire ends in a single location, the direction you, the builder, are looking at the individual wire endpoint. If you have more than one wire connected into one point, you can change the orientation of what's being snapped into that point simply by moving your camera around to the other side of it. This includes not only what is being glitched into a wire endpoint, but what orientation a wire will adopt when being connected to a point with multiple wires already connected. So if you're pulling into a point that already has multiple wires into it, the wire that you're pulling into that point will adopt whatever orientation the center point is when you're looking at it and attach it. Even with just two wires going into a single point from opposite sides, glitching an item in that point can have different results depending on how the player is looking at that endpoint. The only way to eliminate this completely is to have just a single wire. But as long as the builder knows and understands this, it too can be manipulated, and can be beneficial in certain situations and make things go a little bit faster. Now that we have a better understanding of the things we are dealing with, let's move on to changing the orientation of a single wire to fit our needs. There are a number of methods available, and I will go over a couple here and then explain why I use the one that I do. First, let me explain my terminology here. Each wire has three axes that I will be referencing, X, Y, and Z. X and Y are the two-dimensional horizontal plane. Both the X and Y axes have the same up and down directions. This is easily represented by any floor piece that you snap into a point. The Y axis does not have a wire representing it, and the Z axis, since there are no truly vertical wires, is more of an idea than an actual axis we can change. In actuality, all wire manipulation does is take the wire and either rotate or change the angle of its XY axis to give us the intended result. What I mean by this is, even with a wire pulled vertically, it still has a top and a bottom determined by the wire's orientation. The XY plane is what has changed. The Z axis is still the up-down plane. Only now it's visually horizontal instead of vertical. And since we can do this in a full 360 degrees, we can manipulate the wire in all three dimensions at will. Now, since we already know that a wire will adopt the orientation of the endpoint it is being attached to, we can use this innate wire point on the floor lights to quickly and easily change the rotation of the XY plane of a wire. This is a great example to show you exactly what I mean. Basically, we are changing what direction up actually points. That's it. The floor light has 4 directions and can therefore change the wire in 4 angles. 0 degrees is the horizontal plane. It won't change anything if you already have a perfectly level and straight wire. It can change 90 degrees either facing to the left or to the right, or 270 degrees or negative 90 degrees if you think in terms of circular rotation, or 180 degrees or perfectly upside down. A great way to not only practice some wiring, but better understand the processes that are happening when you are moving the wire's angles is to do it yourself without the floor lights. Going through the steps yourself to change the wire in the exact same way that just connecting it to a floor light would do. Yes, it is long-winded, but you're just practicing. To do this, you first need to change the orientation of the x-axis. This is simple. Just reverse wire glitch from a right angle and blammo. Delete the old wire. Next, and this is the important one, you need to flip the XY plane vertically. You can do this with any wall, using reverse wire glitch to find a wire point perfectly above or below the starting point. By pulling straight down at the start, you will twist your wire, since that is creating a wire with its up facing away and trying to do so exactly at 90 degrees, pulling it down. It will try and adopt the horizontal angle, which it can't, so it twists. There are two ways to do this without twisting the wire. My preferred method is to save your point vertically and force a similar orientation to the center point first. So after you reverse wire glitch from the top of your wall, pull down at an angle to another end of the wire connected to your center. Keep in mind that the direction that you make this pull will determine the up position for your vertical wire when this is all done. Once that is connected, pull from the center up to the point you just saved. This will force that wire to have a vertical x-axis with the up in the direction that you chose in the previous step, and you can then delete the other two wires in the wall. Another two-step process is to simply change the angle of your center wire, your starting wire, so that pulling straight down to it will not be at exactly 90 degrees and therefore not twist the wire. To do this, first glitch a wall at the far end of the wire you are changing the angle of. Reverse wire from the top of that and pull to your center. Now, using your knowledge of viewpoints, place a wall in the level snap points. Then you can delete the original wire. Now, you can safely reverse wire glitch from the top of the wall and pull straight down without it twisting. Once you have this vertical wire, you can rotate it however you want, but for this example, since we're trying to mimic what the floor lights do, we're just going to do 90 degrees. Then, bam, you have taken 3 steps to do something you could have done in 1 step, but you understand wire pulling mechanics better now, don't you? Now, at this point, this is where you really start to get good at this. Try and reverse the process we just learned to get the wire back to having its x-axis horizontal, perfectly straight and level like it was before we started messing around with it. Once you can do this without really thinking about it, you should be well on your way to confidently manipulating a wire in any direction that you want. As long as you understand reverse wire glitching and how to get different angles based off of different pieces, you can manipulate this wire in any way that you want now. Another thing I should show you is another way that 90 degrees is an important number to remember. You can use wire twists to your advantage, as well as wire angles above and below a 90-degree point. For example, 2 wires pulled down at exactly 90 degrees, twisting each of them, parallel to each other will create 2 different twists, but connecting those 2 endpoints will result in a perfect 90-degree rotation from whatever you are pulling. This is beneficial in certain situations, like if you want to use floor panels as walls, but you want to keep them in line with floor pieces that you already have in position. You can just do this and bam, you're going to have it perfectly in line with the edge of that and at a perfect 90-degree angle. And also, from a perfectly vertical wire, pulls that are relatively above or below the far end will technically be right side up and upside down. As you can see here, pulling from above to below a vertical wire results in an upside down wire, and doing so in the reverse direction results in the opposite. This will always be reversed if repeating the process from below the starting wire. To mirror the effect, all you have to do is simply flip the lower vertical wire by 180 degrees. So there you have it. I know it's a lot to learn, but with some patience and lots of practice, you can master moving the wire in any direction or angle that you want. Please let me know what else you guys want to learn how to do. Let me know what you think of these ideas and methods, and please send me links to what you guys build with this stuff. I really am interested to see what you guys can do. I'll see you guys next time.